Welcome back to Inside Politics. We're talking presidential politics today with Mary Mancini, who's the state Democratic Party chair, and with Carol Andrews, who's Democratic consultants who worked in local, state, and national elections for the past 25 years. Ladies, as we tape this interview, we do not know even when Hillary Clinton's going to make her announcement for sure about her vice presidential choice. We know it'll be sometime this weekend. So let me ask you the question about the vice presidential choice this way. Mary, who do you think she will select, and who should she select to maximize her chances to win in November?
Oh, I think she will select Tim Kaine, and I think she should select Tim Kaine. Southern state, you know, he's
important swing state.
Important swing state. It's got a, important swing state. Has a lot of experience. He's a likable guy, and the most important thing I think about him is that he speaks fluent Spanish, and that is, you know, what differentiates the other candidates. Old white guy candidates, right? So, I mean, it's not going to be Elizabeth Warren, it's not going to be Bernie Sanders, but having him with that incredible skill, and if you've seen him on Telemundo or Univision, you know, it's quite impressive and needed, necessary.
Carol, what are your thoughts? Do you think it should be Tim Kaine?
Well, I think it's going to be between Tim Kaine and Sherrod Brown of Ohio. Those are both important battleground states. Senator Brown is important to trade policy, and but you know, a little more liberal. And then, you know, Tim Kaine is more middle of the road and does speak fluent Spanish, which is very, very important. And I'm leaning toward Tim Kaine as well. And there were reports yesterday that President Clinton was in Virginia talking to Tim Kaine, and he, of course, was leaning that way. So.
I know they wanted to get the Republicans off stage, but right. I thought she'd come with it pretty early, and maybe even on Friday, not necessarily waiting to the weekend.
Yeah, I even thought that she might come with it last night to just really bump them off.
Mary, what about Tom Vilsack, the agriculture secretary and the former governor out in Iowa? His name came up. He's apparently got a close relationship with the Clintons. They think could perhaps help in some of the rural areas, particularly in some of the swing states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. But apparently you don't think he'll be the one she should pick.
No, I don't. No, I think she's on. I think she's going to be on the right track with Kaine. And let me just say, you know, why interrupt a news cycle? The news cycle from that just seems to happen naturally after a Donald Trump speech. I mean, to me, it's like, let this new, you know, it's not like he blew everybody away and did that well. As a matter of fact, it's just the opposite. So, you know, they're probably going to let it ride for a little while before they announce the pick.
And Carol, you think that Vilsack actually has some problems with some parts of the party?
Well, it's my understanding that the Bernie Sanders, the more progressive faction, is really opposed to Secretary Vilsack because he's, you know, sort of tied in with big agriculture and the Monsanto sort of faction. So.
A lot of talk and a lot of polls that indicate that Hillary Clinton's biggest problem is her problems with honesty and integrity. I think the most latest CBS New York Times poll said 67% of those they surveyed said they thought she had problems. They could not trust it. She did not have integrity with them. They could not trust her. So what does the Democratic Convention do this week, Mary, that will make Hillary Clinton more trustworthy to the voters?
I think what it should highlight is her career and everything that she's done as a public servant in this country. She's, you know, high marks as a senator, high marks as a Secretary of State, high marks as a First Lady. You know, not to everybody, but certainly when you break it down and you talk about each one of those roles in her life as a mother as well as a grandmother, what you see is a woman who is incredibly qualified. So you know, my suggestion is tell her story, tell each part of her life and the things that she has done. And of course, there are going to be some people that aren't going to believe it, but those people were never going to vote for Hillary Clinton anyway. So,
Carol, 67% is a huge number. It's going to take a long time, if at all, to get that number to go down, because if all the issues to be on the wrong side of, honesty and integrity is not one of them.
Yeah, and it's tough, but you've got to remember, she has been in the limelight for many, many years, and she's been demonized for many, many years, you know, before she became First Lady. So, you know, that's a lot of burn-in. So she has a lot to overcome. But they both have high unfavorables. So, you know, it's like
So looking towards the fall campaign, is this going to be a race to the bottom? Is both sides going to just try to raise the other side's negative? We saw a lot of that this week, certainly in the Republican convention, to build up Hillary Clinton's negatives and unite the party in that particular case. Is she going to do the same thing to Donald Trump during her convention? And is that going to turn voters off by the time we get to November?
Yeah, I was looking at the schedule, and unfortunately I'm not going to get to go to Philly next week, but I was looking at the schedule for the DNC, and it looks a lot more positive. You know, you have themes like putting people together, and they're looking at her record and the party's record as a whole. You know, it's about Monday night is putting families together, and Tuesday night is a lifetime fighting for children and families, you know, looking at her record. And, you know, Wednesday night is sort of honoring fallen veterans and talking about gun violence and what to do about gun violence. And then, of course, Thursday night is her big night. But, you know, you contrast that with the RNC, which was acid rain, all about her, all the time, and it was, you know, put her in jail, she's terrible, you know, it was just very negative and very dark because they don't have a record to run on. And that's what you do when your record is abysmal, you attack.
Let's take another break. We're talking with Carol Andrews, Democratic political consultant, and Mary Mancini, who's the chairman of the Tennessee Democratic Party. We're talking presidential politics and the upcoming Democratic presidential convention coming up this week and the election ahead. Back to continue our conversation after you watch these messages.